Good afternoon, Dhamma brothers and sisters. We will start the class by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Everyone, can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yesterday, we finished studying Jhana-paccaya and began learning Indriya-paccaya. Review a little bit about Ahara-paccaya. There are 2 kinds of ahara, rupa ahara and nama ahara. Rupa ahara is Kabbaligara ahara, the nutriment of edible food. There are 3 kinds of nama ahara, pasahara, nutriment of contact, manosanjirana ahara, nutriment of mental volition, and vijnanahara, nutriment of consciousness. Only this is a brief review of Ahara-paccaya. A little bit review Indriya-paccaya. There are also 22 controlling faculties. Indriya-paccaya is divided into 3 kinds. Purejatindriya, controlling faculty, born earlier. Sahajatindriya, controlling faculty, born together. Rupa Jivitindriya, controlling faculty that maintains Rupa. Yesterday, we already studied Purejatindriya. Now, let us continue studying Indriya-paccaya further. Let us talk about Ittindriya and Purisindriya. From the moment of Paṭṭhāna, Tati Kamaja Rupa, namely Kaya Dasaka Klapa, Bhava Dasaka Klapa, Hadya Dasaka Klapa. Arise together with Paṭṭhāna Citta. One who has Purisa Bhava Rupa included in the Bhava Dasaka Klapa becomes maze. And one who has Eti Bhava included in the Bhava Dasaka Klapa becomes female. This does not depend on the parents. This Rupa, Bhava Dasaka Klapa, arises because of karma. Being born in the human or Deva world is due to Kusala karma together with Kama Tanha. In the same way, Eti Bhava Rupa is based on Kama Tanha to be reborn as a woman, and Eti Bhava Rupa is based on Kama Tanha to be born as man. Let us consider the mind of man and woman. The majority of women, about 99%, wish to be beautiful as women. to enjoy sensual pleasure as women, and to dress in ways suitable for women. This desire is called Paṭṭhāna for women. The majority of men, about 99%, wish to be handsome as men, to enjoy sensual pleasures as men, and to dress in ways suitable for men. This desire is called Purisa-kamatana for men. Based on this dana, people perform kamavajara kusala kama, such as dana, sila, and bhavana. When these kusala kama give their results, they produce purisa bhava rupa for the individual who will be born as a man, and iti bhava rupa for the individual who will be born as a woman. So, usually in samsara, a woman will be reborn as a woman, and a man will be reborn as a man, provided there is no interfering factor. For example, the Bodhisattva perfected the paramis from the life of ascetic Sumedha up to his life as Siddhartha as a man. Therefore, after receiving the prophecy from Dipingara Buddha, he was never reborn as a woman. With this mind and chanda, he was made as an animal, made as a human, and made as a deva. Consider Yasodhya to be. From the time she prayed in front of Dipingara Buddha, her mind was inclined toward fulfilling the paramis alongside the Bodhisattva as his wife. Therefore, she was a woman in the samsara. As a woman, she wished to be beautiful. As a woman, she cultivated wisdom. And as a woman, she supported the Bodhisattva. Her kamadana was attached to the life of a woman. And after getting prophecy, she did not take the form of a man. There are some exceptions. Some women do not like their female-like. They do not wish to be a woman again, even if they marry and fulfill the duties of a wife. They feel dissatisfied and discarded with their female existence. If they maintain sila pure or perform kusala action with a mindset inclined towards a male life, they could be reborn as a man in the next life. However, most women do not have the desire to become men, so their gender typically remains unchanged. Great women like Yasodhya to be, Khema Theri to be, Uppalona Theri to be, Dhammadina to be, and Mahapajapati Gautami to be, as sings in the literatures, scriptures, did not appear to have changed their gender. Based on their desire to be woman, one kusala karma produces its result. It results in their rebirth as woman. Look at Venerable Ananda Dubi, as I have explained before. He committed Kamisu Michachara Karma throughout his life. Because of this karma, he suffered in hell. Afterward, he was reborn as a goat, a monkey, and a cow. In each of these lives, he was castrated. After that, he was reborn as a person who was neither man nor woman in one life. And neither man nor woman person has no bhava rupa. From the moment of Paṭṭhāna, only 20 kamaja rupa arise together with Paṭṭhāna citta. And this person has no set organs. He only has an organ to urinate and defecate. This person is called Naponsaka Pandaka in Pali. On the other hand, there are some people whose minds are unclear about their sexuality. They can be both a man and a woman in one life. But both bhava rupa are not included at the same time. Only one bhava rupa is included at a time. When one experiences sexual enjoyment as a woman, the 80 bhava rupa is present in the bhava dasaka klapa. Later, if the inclination changes towards experiencing sexual enjoyment as a man, the bhava rupa changes accordingly and male sexual characteristics arise. Such a person is called Upador Bhinjana in Pali. Upador means in both ways or both sides, referring to the karma that can lead to being both a man and a woman. Bhinjana means sign or mark, referring to those who have such sexual organs. Upador Bhinjana means those who have both set organs due to karma that can lead to both male and female forms. Actually, two set organs do not appear simultaneously. When the person wishes to engage in sexual relation as a woman, the male organ is concealed and not visible. When the mind takes on a male inclination and the person wishes to engage in sexual relations with a woman, the male organ becomes visible and the female organ is concealed. And Upador Bhinjana person is considered to be the result of akusala karma. I have heard that some doctors are able to perform surgery on such individuals, enabling them to have only one set organ by removing the other. Iti bhava is also called Itindriya, and Purisa bhava is also called Purisindriya. From the time of perception in the mother's womb, Iti bhava rupa governs feminine characteristics. How does it do so? It has the ability to produce and distinctly manifest the female organ. The female faculty and feminine bodily features such as the face, hands, legs, and other feminine characteristics. Purisa Bhava controls masculine characteristics from the moment of conception in the mother's womb. How does it govern them? It has the capacity to produce and distinctly manifest the male organ, the male faculty, and masculine features such as the face, hands, legs, and other bodily characteristics associated with maleness. Therefore, at birth, a child is clearly distinguished as male or female due to the operation of Bhava Rupa. This Bhava Rupa arises through karma, conditioned by Tanha, craving. When a boy grows up a little bit, he imitates his father's behavior, such as how to walk, how to talk, how to behave as a man, and so on. When a girl grows up a little, she imitates her mother's behavior, such as how to walk, how to talk, how to behave as a woman, and so on. Not only is the feminine appearance distinctly manifested, but she also speaks, behaves, and lives in the manner of a woman. Likewise, in the case of a man, not only is the masculine appearance distinctly manifested, but he also speaks, behaves, and lives in the manner of a man. Some children resemble their mother, others resemble their father. This is because while they are developing in the mother's womb, Kamaja Rupa, Cetija Rupa, Uddhacca Rupa, and Aharaja Rupa arise and develop based on the cell derived from both the father and the mother. Therefore, some parts of the child resemble the father, while other parts resemble the mother. Since Rupa arises and develops in the mother's womb, it has a connection with both parents. If the parents are fair-skinned, the child will generally also be fair-skinned. If the parents are yellow-skinned, the child will generally also be yellow-skinned. If the parents are dark-skinned, the child will generally also be dark-skinned. Generally, if the parents are beautiful, the child will also tend to be beautiful. Similarly, if the parents are not good-looking, the child will also tend not to be good-looking. Although often resemble their parents, this is not entirely precise, because Kamaja Rupa is not directly connected to the parents. Only Uddhacca Rupa and Cetija Rupa are related to the parents. As they arise in dependent on their parents' cell. Children often tend to have mental habits and intelligence similar to those of their parents. With regard to male and female appearance, the Buddha explains 5 types of objects that are most attractive to both man and woman in the Anguttara Nikaya Ekaka Nipata. Rupadikvaka. Among many objects, a woman's appearance is the most attractive to a man's mind. Even though men like beautiful clothes and accessories, these things are not as attractive as a woman's appearance. In the same way, the appearance of a man is the most attractive to a woman's mind. Although women like beautiful clothes and accessories, these things are not as attractive as a man's appearance. Furthermore, a man's voice is the most attractive to a woman's mind. When some men speak to each other, their conversation is not considered attractive to other men. However, if a woman hears a song sung by a man, it affects her mind. Similarly, a woman's voice is the most attractive to a man's mind. When men hear the sound of their lover's voice, it is the most attractive sound to them. Among various smell, the natural sense of a man is the most attractive to women. Similarly, the natural sense of a woman is the most attractive to men. This refers to their natural body odor, not the fragrance of perfumes they use. A man tastes the flavor of the food that a wife cooks and prepares for her husband is the most enjoyable to him. In the same way, when the wife is sick and husband kindly cooks and prepares food for her, even if she does not feel like eating, she eats it and feels very satisfied. Among the sense of touch, a man's touch is the most attractive to women. Similarly, a woman's touch is the most attractive to men. These are the 5 most attractive sensual objects for men and women as taught by the Buddha in the Indriya-paccaya. Because of these bhava-rupa, many men and women develop attachment to each other. Even the Bodhisattva was attached to Yasodhya in many lives, and Yasodhya was also attached to the Bodhisattva in many lives. Attachment between beings is very common. However, at the moment of death, if attachment still remains, it can produce fear and disturbance in the mind. If attachment is strong at death, it may lead to rebirth in the animal realm or in the realm of hungry ghosts, Piṭṭhāna. However, there is no need to fall excessive fear now that we understand attachment. We should prepare in advance for the inevitable separation we will one day face. Once separation occurs, each of us will go our own way according to our individual karma. For now, we should uphold sila and reflect on that in advance, preparing ourselves by remembering that everything is impermanent and that all conditioned existence is subject to change and dissolution. Of course, it is not realistic to simply say, do not become attached to one another. However, even while attachment still arises, we should strive to be mindful and clearly aware of it. We should practice dana, uphold sila, and cultivate bhavana. Among these, sila and bhavana are more powerful than dana. By practicing in this way, we will eventually attain liberation, just as the Bodhisattva and Yasodhya did in their previous lives. The Buddha taught that bhava rupa functions as an indriya, namely Indriya and Purisindriya. However, these two types of bhava rupa are not included in Indriya-paccaya. Indriya directly conditions the manifestation of the female organ, feminine characteristics, and feminine behavior. While Purisindriya directly conditions the manifestation of the male organ, masculine characteristics, and masculine behavior. However, the results produced by these two bhava rupa are not always entirely definite. This is because some men behave like women and some women behave like men. As a result, the outcomes are not consistently fixed, and therefore these are not included in Indriya-paccaya. In other words, these two bhava rupa are clearly evident in the world, but their results are not fixed or certain, therefore they are not included in Indriya-paccaya. If something is uncertain, it is not included as a paccaya. The Buddha's Dhamma is firmly established, and the conditions paccaya described in the Paṭṭhāna are precise and definite. The Buddha preached 22 Indriya, but only 20 Indriya are included in Indriya-paccaya. The 22 Indriya are the controlling faculties of eye, Cakkundriya, Sotindriya, Ghanendriya, Jingvindriya, Kayendriya, Manendriya, Attendriya, Purisindriya, Jivitindriya, Sukhindriya, Dukhindriya, Somanasindriya, Domanasindriya, Upekindriya, Satindriya, Viriyendriya, Satindriya, Samadindriya, Pinyendriya, Aninya Tinyasa Mitindriya, Inyendriya, and Inyatawindriya. Purisindriya governs roughness as a masculine characteristic, while Attendriya governs subtlety as a feminine characteristic. Jivitindriya protects the life of both Rupa and Nama. Manindriya governs the knowing of sense object. Sukhindriya, Dukhindriya, Somanasindriya, Domanasindriya, and Upekindriya governs feeling. Satindriya governs faith. Viriyendriya governs effort. Satindriya governs mindfulness, which remembers the object. Samadhindriya governs a collective and tranquil mind. Piñendriya governs the understanding of the true nature of Dhamma. Aninya Tinyasa is the faculty that functions in the knowledge of Pinya associated with Sotapatti Mega. Inyendriya is the faculty that functions in the knowledge of Pinya associated with Sotapatti Phala up to Arahata Mega. Iññata Wendriya is the faculty that functions in the knowledge of Pinya associated with Arahata Phala. Chakhondriya, Sotindriya, Karnendriya, Jiwendriya, Kayendriya, Aitendriya, and Purisendriya are Rupa Indriya, physical faculties. While Jivitendriya exists in both Rupa and Nama. The remaining 14 Indriyas are Nama Indriya, mental faculties. Let us now look at the Pali. Rupa Jivitendriya Gadata Rupanam Indriya-paccayena paccayo. Rupa Jivitendriya is cause, controlling faculty of the life of Rupa. Gadata Rupanam is effect, Kamaja Rupa. Indriya-paccayena by way of controlling faculties, condition. Paccayo, sustain. Controlling faculty of the life of Rupa, Rupa Jivita, sustains Kamaja Rupa by way of controlling faculty condition, Indriya-paccaya. Because of Rupa Jivita, it sustains all Rupa in each Kamaja Rupa Klapa. This is Rupa Jivitendriya, the controlling faculty of the life of Rupa. Every Kamaja Rupa Klapa have Jivita, this one. This Jivita sustain all the Rupa in each Kamaja Rupa Klapa. Arupino Indriya Sambayodaganam Dhammanam Dasmothana Ninja Rupanam Indriya-paccayena paccayo. Arupino Indriya, mental faculty, Nama Indriya. Sambayodaganam Dhammanam, associated Citta and Cetasika, Sammothana Ninja Rupanam Citta Rupa. Indriya-paccayena by way of controlling faculty, condition, paccayo, sustain. Mental faculty, Namaru Indriya, sustains the associated Citta, Cetasika, and Cetasika Rupa by way of controlling faculty, condition, Indriya-paccaya. Nama Indriya are Sahajata Indriya, which arise together with Chaita, Cetasika, and Cetasa Rupa. For example, one Mahakusala Chaita arises. Suppose that altogether 34 Nama Dhamma arise during the 7 Jhana movements. Among these 34 mental states, mental faculty Nama Indriya are Manindriya, Somanasindriya, Jivitindriya, Pinyendriya, Satindriya, Viriyendriya, Satindriya, Viriyendriya, Satindriya, Samadindriya. Chitta is Manindriya. Vedana is Somanasindriya. In here, because of 34 Nama, that Vedana is Somanasa Vedana. So, Somanasindriya. Ekagata is Samadindriya. Jivita is Jivitindriya. Viriya, Viriyendriya. Saddha, Sattindriya. Sati, Sattindriya. Panya, Penyendriya. These 34, among these 34 Nama Dhamma, mental faculties, these 8 mental faculties, Nama Indriya, sustain the arising of Chaita and Cetasika and Cetasa Rupa through Sahajata, Indriya-paccaya. Sahajata means arising together. Indriya means controlling faculties. There are 3 kinds of Indriya-paccaya. They are Purisindriya, Purijatindriya, controlling faculty that is born early. Rupa Jivitindriya, the controlling faculties of the life of Rupa. Sahajatindriya, the controlling faculty that is born together. I have already explained all of these. Yesterday we learned Chakhondriya, Sotindriya, Ghanindriya, Jivendriya, Manindriya, Kayendriya are Purijatindriya because they are born earlier than this consciousness and control the consciousness. Now today we learn Sahajatindriya, Rupa Jivitindriya. This is Rupa Jivitindriya. No. Yeah, Sahajatindriya is Nama Jivita. Nama mental faculty. So just now we learned already that mental faculties control Chaita and Cetasika and Cetasa Rupa. They are born together and these mental faculties supposed sustain the Chaita, Cetasika and Cetasa Rupa. So this is mental faculties. And Rupa Jivitindriya is the Rupa Jivita sustain all the Rupa in the Kamaja Rupa, Klapa, by way of controlling faculties. This is Rupa Jivitindriya. We learned all already. This is we learned yesterday. Sahajatendriya, today we learn already. Nama Indriya, controlling faculty of mind, are Sahajatendriya, which are born together with Ceta and Cetasika and Cetasa Rupa. Rupa Jivitendriya, controlling faculty of life of Rupa. Rupa Jivita sustain all Rupas in each Kamacha Rupa Klapa. This is Rupa Jivitendriya, controlling faculty protecting Rupa. Ultimately, there are only causes and effects. Conditioned by causes, effects arise only momentarily. Our body and everything around us are impermanent. We do not own ourselves, nor do we own others. Even the mind changes moment by moment. If we can truly see that there is no I and no mind, the kilesa, defilements that follow us throughout samsara, can be gradually eradicated. At this point, we conclude Indriya-paccaya and we proceed to Jhana-paccaya. Jhana condition, absorption condition. Let us now consider Jhana-paccaya. Jhana-paccaya refers to the condition of absorption, where the mind is able to concentrate on a single object. A simile for Jhana-paccaya is like a person at the top of a tree or a mountain who can see the surrounding view clearly. From the top of the tree, he can see the view clearly and describe it to those on the ground. Similarly, one who reached the top of a mountain can describe to those below how the water flows and how beautiful the trees appear. In this way, he shares his experience so that others may understand what he has seen. There are 5 jhana factors that can be observed through focused attention. Vitakka, initial application. Vichara, sustained application. Piti, joy or rapture. Sukha, bliss. Ekaggata, one-pointedness of mind. Just as a person who climbs a tree or a mountain can describe the view to those below, the 5 jhana factors similarly cause the associated Ceta, Cetasika, and Cetasa Rupa to be fixed on a single object, while themselves remaining firmly concentrated. Jhana-paccaya is a condition that enables the mind to be concentrated on a single object. Jhana is mental absorption in a single object. Many people think that jhana is related only to higher attainments, such as rupa vachara jhana, arupa vachara jhana. In fact, Jhana-paccaya operates in kusala, akusala, and abhyagata states as well. This is mentioned in the Paṭṭhāna text as Kusalodhammo, Kusalasa Dhammasa, Jhana-paccaya Paccayo, Akusalodhammo, Akusalasa Dhammasa, Jhana-paccaya Paccayo, Abhyagadodhammo, Abhyagadasa Dhammasa, Jhana-paccaya Paccayo. Kusalodhammo, Kusalasa Dhammasa, Jhana-paccaya Paccayo means that Kusala Dhamma causes the arising of Kusala Dhamma by way of Jhana-paccaya. Akusala Dhammo, Akusalasa Dhammasa, Jhana-paccaya Paccayo means Akusala Dhamma causes the arising of Akusala Dhamma by way of Jhana-paccaya. Abhyagado Dhammo, Abhyagadasa Dhammasa, Jhana-paccaya Paccayo means Abhyagata Dhamma causes the arising of Abhyagata Dhamma by way of jhana condition, Jhana-paccaya. For example, when dosa arises in the mind becomes absorbed in the object of anger and is fully fixed upon it. This is called akusala jhana. On the other hand, if the mind is sustained and remains fully absorbed in the anapanapatikabbhaka nimitta for 1 or 2 or 3 hours, this is kusala jhana. These states are referred to as Jhana-paccaya, the condition of absorption. Let us further examine to the akusala aspect of Jhana-paccaya. As I mentioned earlier in the discussion on Indriya-paccaya, a woman's appearance is the most attractive to a man, and a man's appearance is the most attractive to a woman. When attachment arises and they gaze at each other, this is an example of akusala jhana. If she leaves, he thinks about her intensely. This is vitakka. Vichara is the repeated examination of the object so that it does not disappear. If he can talk to someone about her, he will do so. If not, his mind becomes completely occupied with her. It may feel like a kind of affection, but in reality, it is obsession. This is akusala jhana. Another example is when someone watched fascinating movies with great interest or listens to songs enthusiastically for 1 or 2 hours, losing track of time and not noticing any physical discomfort due to the concentration of akusala jhana. Moreover, while fishing with a fishing rod, while thoroughly planning to steal or commit robbery, or while thinking of causing trouble to others, the mind can become strongly absorbed in its object. Such deep one-pointedness absorption, when rooted in an wholesome intention, is also called akusala jhana. Now let us consider the kusala aspect. The attainment of jhana is kusala. If we do not train the mind in concentration, we will not be able to keep our attention on the in-breath and out-breath, even for a single minute. However, through repeated practice, we can attain jhana and keep the mind focused on a single object for an extended period of time. At that moment, the 5 jhana factors are present. Vitakka, initial application, the mind's first application to the object. Vichara, sustained application, the continued examination of the object. Piti, joy or rapture, delight in the object. Sukha, happiness or pleasant feeling associated with the object. Ekaggata, one-pointedness, the unification of the mind with the object. This is kusala jhana. Another example of kusala jhana is the recollection of the inspiring qualities of the Buddha, or the recollection of the Buddha's attribute. Instead of thinking intensely about a beloved person, the new object becomes the Buddha's attributes. In this case, the recollection of the Buddha's attributes involves vitakka, directing and applying the mind to the Buddha's attribute with wholehearted attention. Vichara, repeated examining and sustaining attention on the Buddha's attributes. Piti, delight and joy arising from the Buddha's attributes. Sukha, the pleasant feeling or happiness that arises while recollecting the Buddha's attributes. Ekaggata, one-pointedness of mind, fully focused on the Buddha's attribute. This is an example of Kamavajara Kusala Jhana. There is a story of Posadeva Mahathera. After the Buddha attained Parinibbana, the Mahathera swept the platform of the Jediya, and his mind became filled with great joy and devotion. So he recollected the Buddha's attribute wholeheartedly by using the Buddha image as a support for mindfulness, recalling the true qualities of the Buddha in the mind. In this way, the 5 jhana factors arise very clearly. At the time, Mara, fearing that Mahathera might attain higher Dhamma, took the form of a large monkey and approached. When the Mahathera saw the monkey, his concentration was disturbed and he could no longer remain focused. The next day, Mahathera returned to the Jediya and, with deep concentration, recollected the Buddha's attribute by using the Buddha image as a support and visualizing the Buddha in his mind. At the time, Mara appeared again, this time in the form of an old cow. When the Mahathera saw the cow, his concentration was disturbed and he could no longer remain focused. The next day, he returned to the Jediya and once again recollected the Buddha's attribute. Mara appeared again, this time in the form of an ugly man with bow legs. When the Mahathera saw the man, he thought, in this area there is no one as ugly as this man. Then he realized that Mara might be attempting to disturb his concentration. He asked, "Are you Mara?" Mara did not denied it and admitted, yes. He was not angry with Mara and instead requested, "You are very powerful. Please create a Buddha image for me." Mara replied, "I cannot create an exact Buddha image, but I can make one that is almost identical." The Mahatira then said, "If so, please create one that is as similar as possible." When he saw the Buddha's image created by Mara, he looked at it with deep reverence and reflected, although this image was created by Mara, who has not yet eradicated his defilements, it is still worthy of great respect. How much greater is the reverence due to the real Buddha, who has fully eradicated all defilements and is endowed with metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, and sabhinyutta jnana. After that, he recollected the Buddha's attributes with deep concentration, visualizing the real Buddha as the object in his mind. All five jhana factors arose clearly. Then contemplating piti with vipassana insight as anicca, dukkha, and anatta, he attained arahatship. Another example is King Asoka, who became very famous in the Sasana 218 years after the Buddha's parinibbana. He was not a Buddhist previously. After embracing Buddhism, King Asoka developed deep reverence for the Buddha and wished to see an image of the Buddha. His command extended 1 yojana, about 12 miles, into the air and 1 yojana beneath the earth. He then summoned the Naga king named Kala-Naga, who dwelled 1 yojana beneath the earth and possessed a lifespan equal to a war cycle. King Asoka invited him to sit on the throne and requested that he create a Buddha image. King Kalanaga created a Buddha image that was exceptionally beautiful and respectful and presented it to King Asoka. The king joyfully worshipped and gazed at the image for 7 days continuously. How strong his concentration must have been. Another example is Asandimetta, the queen of King Asoka. She wished to hear the Buddha's voice, so she expressed her desire to a bhikkhu. The bhikkhu told her that there was a bath known as the Karavika in Pali, whose voice was said to be very beautiful and almost similar to the Buddha's voice. Therefore, she requested King Asoka to let her hear the sound of the Kalavika bath. Eventually, they obtained a Karavika bath, but it did not make any sound as it was lonely. To resolve this, they covered the room with mirrors, seeing its own reflections in all directions. The bat became happy and began to sing. The sound was very pleasant, and she reflected, if the sound of a bath, which has not yet eradicated its defilement, can be so delightful, how much more pleasant must be the voice of the Buddha, who has completely eradicated all defilements. She experienced great joy, pity, and Kamavajara jhana arose within her. Based on that concentration, she developed vipassana insight into piti. Not only she herself, but also the lesser wives of King Asoka attained Sotapanna. How remarkable their progress was. Now, the topic of Santimetta will be explained. One day, when the Buddha and Ananda visited Kusinara, the Mala chieftain decreed that anyone who failed to pay homage to the Buddha would be fined 500 coins. A man named Roja, a friend of Venerable Ananda, came to pay homage, and the Venerable was pleased to see his friend. However, when Roja explained that he had come only out of obedience to his chieftain order, Venerable Ananda became deeply disappointed. He then requested the Buddha to take some action so that Roja would develop true respect for the Buddha Sasana. The Buddha said, Ananda, it is not difficult. With deep concentration, the Buddha radiated metta towards Roja. Soon after, Roja began searching for the Buddha, calling out, where is the Buddha? Where is the Buddha? He was like a calf searching for its mother. From that time onward, he developed deep respect for the Buddha and Sasana. In the case of Santimetta, when the mind is established with concentration and radiates metta towards beings as the object, the 5 jhana factors may arise. This form of metta practice belongs to Kamavajara Kusala jhana, not yet to Rupavajara jhana. However, if the mind wanders or becomes distracted by others' thoughts, it cannot be regarded as metta-based Kamavajara Kusala jhana. True metta means radiating it without any acceptation. True metta means radiating it without any expectation. When practiced in this way, it has a profound effect. However, if there is any expectation while sending metta, it is not genuine metta and will not produce the same effect. Mahakanayon Siaro shared an experience from his youth. When he sent metta to the beings along the road, he would take the next day for alms. The following day, he received a good dish from that very same road, and he reflected, my metta is powerful. That night, he sent metta again to the beings along the same road. However, the next day, he did not receive any food from the house where he had received a good dish the previous day. He then realized that his metta was not genuine, because it had been accompanied by the expectation of receiving food in return. Therefore, metta should not be sent with the intention of receiving something in return. When metta is radiated without any expectation, with the sole intention of wishing beings happiness, it becomes powerful and effective. Another example is when Venerable Devadatta ordered the elephant keeper to give the Naragiri elephant a large amount of alcohol and then release it to the Buddha. The drunken Naragiri elephant came rushing towards the Buddha with great force and speed. At that moment, Venerable Ananda requested the Buddha to avoid the elephant, but the Buddha did not move. In response, Venerable stepped forward and stood in front of the Buddha to shield him from the elephant. The Buddha gently moved Venerable Ananda aside and said, "Let it be, do not worry." Then, with deep concentration, he radiated metta toward the drunken elephant. As the elephant approached the Buddha, it kneeled down and became calm and submissive. This showed that sending metta with concentration and without any expectation is truly powerful and effective. If we practice Buddhanussati or radiate metta, we must do so with concentration. If we practice only superficially without concentration, the result will be weak and not very noticeable. Not only through practicing Buddhanussati or radiating metta, but also through reflecting on Asubha Bhavana with concentration, one can attain higher Dhamma. Asubha Bhavana refers to meditation on the loathsomeness or unattractive of a corpse. Once a bhikkhu and a novice went into the forest to get some wood for making tooth cleaning sticks, similar to the toothpicks we use today. When the novice went to a certain place, he saw a corpse and contemplated it through Asubha Bhavana. By contemplating the corpse through Asubha Bhavana, he developed deep concentration and practiced vipassana, observing the characteristic of anicca, impermanent, dukkha, suffering, and anatta, non-self. Through this practice, he attained the states of Sotapanna, Sakadagami, and eventually Anagami. At that time, he heard the Buddha, he heard the bhikkhu calling him. So he stopped went to the bhikkhu and asked, Bhante, please go this way and have a look. The bhikkhu also saw the corpse and contemplated it through Asubha Bhavana. Afterward, he practiced Vipassana and as a result attained Anagami state. They were able to attain higher Dhamma quickly because they consistently maintained mindfulness. By maintaining mindfulness continuously, earlier concentration supports later concentration. When our parami and vipassana jnana mature, we may realize higher Dhamma at any time and in any place. If we does not have the habit of keeping the mind firmly in the present moment, then whenever one notices the mind, it will usually be thinking of the past or the future. You can test this for yourself. Without prior training, the mind does not naturally stay in the present moment. We can also practice recollection of death, Marananusati. When attending a funeral, reflecting, I too will die like this person one day. By doing so, attachment to both ourselves and others gradually decreased. When we are eventually separated from a beloved one, the loss becomes easier to accept. Therefore, we should regularly practice recollection of death, Marananusati, as it helps prepare the mind to face death with dignity. So, upon seeing or thinking of a dead person, whether the person is of the same age, younger or older, one should practice Marananusati, reflecting, I too will die like this person, even though I am still healthy now. Except for certain noble person, Arya person, no one can know in advance at what age they will die, from what illness, at what time, where they will be buried, or to which destination they will go. Therefore, Lady Seattle, who was very famous in Myanmar, said, why does every being fear death? It is because after death, most people do not know in which sphere of existence they will be reborn. If people knew in advance what their next existence would be after death, and could choose to be reborn in any realm they wished, no one would fear death so much. Unfortunately, the next existence for most people is uncertain. Therefore, before death comes, we must prepare ourselves to face it with dignity and calm. So far, many examples of how to attain higher Dhamma using different objects have been explained. The Buddha taught 40 meditation method. After developing concentration through one of these methods, such as Anapana, Paṭṭhāna, Metta Bhavana, Asubha Bhavana or Marananusati and so on, we can attain higher Dhamma by continuing to contemplate with Vipassana. However, this is not a one-time practice. We must maintain mindfulness at all times. Venerable Ananda attained arhatship by reflecting on Kaya-gata sati, mindfulness of the body. Contemplating bodily parts such as hair of the head, body hair, nails, teeth, and so on. In this practice, as he continued reflecting on Kaya-gata sati bhavana, he walked throughout much of the night with strong energy and mindfulness. Noticing that his energy, viriya, was becoming excessive and needed balancing, then he decided to lie down on his bed mindfully. He is described as attaining arhatship just before fully lying down, while still in the process of lowering his body. This was because he continuously maintained mindfulness and did not let go of his meditation, bhavana, even during movement or posture change. Another example is Mahatissa Mahathera, a well-known monk in Sri Lanka, who one day went for alms round from Jediya mountain monastery to Anuradhapura city. On the way, he heard the sound of a woman laughing. Focusing on her teeth, he perceived her as a skeleton. This was because the Mahathera had repeatedly cultivated skeleton meditation, both internally and externally, in the past. While going on his alms round, he did not abandon his meditation and remained mindful. When he encountered a loving woman on the way, he focused on her teeth, and she appeared to him as a skeleton. As he contemplated vipassana meditation on the skeleton, he attained the arahata magga and phala right there on the spot. Another example is Kematiri. Who was distinguished for her beauty and was the chief consort of King Bimbisara. Also attained arhatship through the practice of Asubha Bhavana. The Buddha later ranked her among his female disciples as foremost in great wisdom. Let us return our attention to Jhana-paccaya. If we focus the mind completely on a single object, our concentration will develop and the 5 jhana factors will become clear. The combination of these 5 jhana factors is called jhana. It is similar to how a car is called a car because of the combination of its parts, such as the bumper, steering wheel, dashboard, gear, engine, battery, tires, and so on. If any of these elements were missing, it will not be called akha. Similarly, jhana is called jhana because of the combination of the 5 jhana factors. Vitakka is equivalent to thinking. Its characteristic is the application of the mind to an object. Its nature is that when associated with kusala citta, it becomes kusala vitakka, and when associated with akusala citta, it becomes akusala vitakka. There are 3 kusala vitakka and 3 akusala vitakka. The 3 akusala vitakka are kama vajara. 3 akusala vitakka are kama vitakka, vyabhada vitakka, and vihimsa vitakka. When encountering a desirable object through seeing, hearing, and so on, lobha, greed arises, and this thought of lobha is called kama vitakka. Dosa thought that arises because of hatred or dissatisfaction is called vyabhada vitakka. When vyabhada vitakka becomes strong, it gives rise not only to harmful thoughts, but also to thoughts of wanting to harm, torture, or kill. This intensified form is called vihimsa vitakka. Vitakka, accompanied by jhana factor, is the thought associated with kusala. The 3 types of kusala vitakka are nikkama vitakka, abhyabhada vitakka, avihimsa vitakka. Nikkama vitakka is the thought that wishes to renounce sensual pleasure. Abhyabhada vitakka is the thought of non-ill will or loving kindness. Avihimsa vitakka is the thought of compassion, free from any intention to harm or torture others. How do jhana factors appear while practicing in-breathing and out-breathing? To gain samadhi, one should choose a quiet place, sit cross-legged, and keep the upper part of the body erect. Preparing in this way creates good condition to avoid pain and uncomfortable feelings. After that, one should be mindful of the in-breath and out-breath. When the mind becomes calm, the breath becomes subtler, and gradually the in-breath and out-breath transform step by step into a nimitta. The nimitta will not be the same for each individual. It depends on one's perception, sanya. When focusing on the nimitta for 1 hour, the 5 jhana factors also become clear. Vitakka, applying the mind to the nimitta. Vichara, repeatedly examining the nimitta. Piti, rapture toward the nimitta. Sukha, happiness through the nimitta. Ekaggata, one-pointedness or unification of the mind on the nimitta. Furthermore, the jhana that is composed of 5 jhana factors is called first jhana. In the first jhana, there are 34 mental, 34 nama, mental phenomena. 1 is Citta, 33 is Cetasika. The jhana with 4 jhana factor is called second jhana, has 33 mental phenomena. The third jhana, the jhana with 3 jhana factor is the third jhana, has 32 mental phenomena. The jhana with 2 jhana factor is the fourth jhana, has 31 mental phenomena. The jhana with 2 jhana factor is also called the fifth jhana, has 31 mental phenomena. After fifth jhana, if one meditator changes the meditation object and continues to practice, he can also attain the arupa jhana. Let us go to see the Jhana-paccaya in Pali. Janingani Jhana Sambayodaganam Dhammanam Dham Smotana Ninja Rupanam Jhana-paccayena paccayo. Janingani is jhana factors, the cause. Jhana Sambayodaganam Dhammanam, associated Citta and Cetasika. Dham Smotana Ninja Rupanam Cetasha Rupa. Jhana-paccayena paccayo, by way of jhana condition. Jhana factors support associated Citta, Cetasika, and Cetasharupa by way of jhana condition. Jhana-paccaya. Absorption condition. In the first jhana, there are 34 mental phenomena, nama dhamma. Among these 5 jhana factors, not only themselves focus on the object, but also support the associated Citta, Cetasika, and Cetasharupa in remaining focused on that object through the jhana condition. Vedana, feeling. In first jhana is sukha. That is sukha jhana factor. Ekagata, one-pointedness, is ekagata jhana factor. Vitakka, initial application, is vitakka jhana factor. Vichara, sustained application, is vichara jhana factor. Piti, rapture or joy, is piti jhana factor. These 5 jhana factors support associated Citta and Cetasika by way of jhana absorption condition. The Cetasharupa produced by tranquil mind is very calm. Jhana-paccaya not only supports the concentration on a samatha object, with a wholesome kusala mind, but also supports concentration on any choosing object, even with an unwholesome akusala mind. Jhana-paccaya has already been explained quite thoroughly. Let me conclude the discussion on Jhana-paccaya here. So tomorrow, the remaining paccaya will be discussed as the last day. Let me stop the Paṭṭhāna discussion here for today. If you have any question, please send them in the message bar. Tomorrow, I will answer them. So let us share the wholesome merits gained from the sharing Paṭṭhāna Dhamma and listening Paṭṭhāna Dhamma with all beings by reciting together Idam me punya. Idam me punyam asavakaya vaham hotu. Idam me punyam nibbanasa paccaya hotu. Mama punya bhagam sabha satanam pajimi te sabbe me sama punya bhagam labantu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May all Dhamma friends be very happy and peaceful, and may you strive to overcome all defilements and soon realize their complete cessation.